Napoleon Hill spent 20 years interviewing the most successful people on Earth. 500 of them: industrialists, inventors, presidents, self-made millionaires. After 20 years, after all those conversations, he said there was one thing that separated every winner from every loser. Not talent, not luck, not intelligence, a burning desire, so consuming that failure had no room to breathe. But here's what nobody told him going in. Wishing isn't desire. Hoping isn't desire. Wanting isn't desire. What Hill found was something harder to name, and almost nobody activates it. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what it is, and how to turn it on. Napoleon Hill was born on October 26, 1883, in a one-room log cabin in Pound, Virginia. Poverty wasn't background, it was every single day. His mother died when he was 9 years old, and the light in that house went out. His father, James, struggled. Mountain life in rural Appalachia gave you little. Long winters, few options. Young Napoleon went wild. Locals called him the most vicious boy in the county. He carried a gun, he fought, he caused trouble wherever he went. Then his father remarried. His stepmother, Martha, was a school teacher, sharp, calm, and she actually looked at him. She told him, "You could be somebody remarkable if you aimed that energy at something worth building." Those words didn't comfort him, they lit something. At 13, Napoleon got a typewriter. He started writing local news for a small paper and discovered for the first time that his words landed. He wrote like a boy with something to prove, because he was. Here's what most people skip. Napoleon Hill didn't come from knowledge, didn't come from money, didn't come from connections. He came from the need to not stay where he was. That hunger, that specific, personal hunger, would lead him to the most important conversation of his life. In 1908, Hill was a young journalist assigned to interview the most powerful man in American industry, Andrew Carnegie. Carnegie was worth what today would be roughly $500 billion, a poor Scottish immigrant who'd built the American steel industry from nothing. The interview was supposed to last 3 hours. It lasted 3 days. Carnegie looked at this wide-eyed reporter and instead of giving him a story, handed him a mission. "I want you to spend 20 years studying the most successful people who ever lived. Interview them, find the common philosophy, and teach it to the world. No salary, no funding, no guarantee of any kind." Hill said yes in 60 seconds. Here's where you'd expect the story to get clean. It didn't. He lost one business, then another, went broke. Marriages came apart under the weight of what he was trying to do. He was raising children in poverty while interviewing the wealthiest men alive. People called him a dreamer, called him a fool. And in the middle of those years, something happened that would end up at the very core of Think and Grow Rich. His son Blair was born without ears. No external ear structure at all. Doctors said he'd never hear, never speak normally. Hill refused that. He didn't hope Blair would hear. He was certain he would, and he spent years pressing that certainty into his son. He'd hold Blair close and whisper to the deaf side of his skull, "You will hear. You will speak. You will live a full life." Blair eventually developed partial hearing, enough for regular school, enough for a normal life. He told the story himself years later. Hill believed his own burning desire had somehow crossed over. Whether that's science, what is real is what that level of desire does to the person holding it. In 1937, 29 years after Carnegie, Napoleon Hill published Think and Grow Rich. No budget, no publicist, no tour. It spread hand to hand. Within a year, over 1 million copies. Today, over 100 million. But here's the part people miss, what makes the book still strange to read. Hill didn't write about desire in general. He wrote about one kind, one with a temperature. He called it burning desire. Not wishing, not wanting, not hoping. Burning. The kind that doesn't let you sleep right, that narrows your whole life down to one point, that makes failure feel like a detour, not where you end up. He gave 6 concrete steps for turning a wish into that. Not metaphors, steps you could actually follow. First, fix the exact goal in your mind. Not, I want more money. The exact number, the exact outcome. Second, decide what you'll give in return. There's no version of this where you take without giving something back. Third, pick a date. A goal without a deadline is decoration. Fourth, make a plan and start, whether or not you feel ready. Fifth, write it down. What you want, by when, what you'll trade, what you'll do. Sixth, read that statement aloud, twice a day. Once when you wake up, once before sleep. And while you read it, actually picture it, feel it, treat it as already done. That last one is what most people skip, and skipping it is why they stay put. Hill's central argument, the one everything else is built on, is this: thoughts are things. Not as a figure of speech, he believed a thought held with enough intensity and feeling starts pulling toward itself the circumstances it needs to become real. That a mind set on fire by burning desire becomes something like a magnet, drawing in the people, money, and moments that match what it has already decided is true. Neuroscience would call part of this the reticular activating system, the brain's filter that decides what you notice based on what you've decided matters. Tell your brain what to look for, and it starts finding it everywhere. Hill would say the subconscious has its instructions. It'll work on them while you sleep. But here's what Hill said was the real enemy of desire, and this is where it gets personal. He said the most dangerous thing isn't failure. It's not being able to commit to what you actually want. The person who drifts from idea to idea, who sort of wants this, sort of wants that, isn't standing still. They're actively working against themselves. You can't pursue a target that keeps moving. Hill talked to men who'd lost everything: businesses, reputations, health, and rebuilt extraordinary lives. What they all had wasn't some vague inner strength. It was a specific goal with a name and a date and a plan written down. Henry Ford wanted to build a car a working American could afford. He wrote it down, repeated it, wouldn't entertain any other future. Edison failed more than 10,000 times before the light bulb worked, and said he never failed once. He just found 10,000 approaches that didn't work. Because the goal never changed, neither did his willingness to keep going. Think and Grow Rich is not a book about money. That's the cover story. The first chapter uses money as an example you can hold in your hand. The book is about how to want something so precisely and so completely that the world runs out of room to push back. Hill also wrote The Law of Success in 1928, a 16-lesson course 9 years before Think and Grow Rich. That's where the full framework lives: purpose, alliances, self-confidence, imagination, self-control. But his most quoted line, the one nobody has managed to improve on, is just this: whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Conceive and believe. Both. Picture it clearly enough to hold it, and charge that picture with enough emotion that some part of you stops treating it as hypothetical. That's the burning desire. That's what moves things. Napoleon Hill died in 1970 at 86. Think and Grow Rich was already one of the best-selling books in history by then. But the thing worth sitting with isn't what he built, it's where he started. A 9-year-old in a log cabin who'd lost his mother. A teenager with a gun and nowhere to aim it. A young man who said yes to a 20-year unpaid mission with no guarantee it led anywhere. He didn't have talent or resources. He had the desire to not stay where he was, and he spent his whole life testing whether that was enough. So here's the question he'd put to you directly. What do you want? Not vaguely, not eventually, not something better than this. What's the exact thing, the number, the life, the version of yourself you'd be willing to burn for? In the next video, we go one level deeper, into something Hill called the most misunderstood force in human psychology. He said it can plant an idea so deep in the subconscious, it becomes indistinguishable from reality. Most people trigger it by accident, and it turns on them. Hill taught how to use it on purpose. Don't miss it.